late last summer, Tailfin finally jumped into the handlebar space with their first bar bag system, officially kind of rounding out their full lineup of bike packing bags. But in true Tailfin fashion, they weren't quite finished. Today, they launched something new, the bar cage. So it borrows actually a lot of what they learned from the bar bag system, but also kind of dialed it into a smaller, more cradle style system. Oh, and it comes with their new branding here. Yeah, let's get into it. Before we do jump into this new bar cage from Tailfin, I do want to take a quick moment to let you all know that this video is supported in part by Gunnison Crested Butte. Gunnison County has long been a hub for gravel cyclists. Just look back to the 1970s when riders were tackling Pearl Pass on clunkers. While times have certainly changed, the county remains as expansive as ever. It's 1.5 times the size of Delaware, with most of that land being public. In fact, there are over 1,100 miles of dirt and gravel roads, perfect for piecing together a multi-day bikepacking trip or just heading out for a quick hour-long gravel spin. So to plan your trip or just to inquire, make sure to click the card in the top right corner or else follow the link in the description below. All right, so I've long been a fan of what I call a harness-like system between Salsa Cycles, Revelate Designs, Alpamayo, and a handful of DIY setups I've used over the years. I've gravitated towards this style for more than a decade. What I really like about this type of setup is, well, it's simple. You just mount the system to the bars, strap a dry bag to it, and, well, you're good to go. And, of course, when you get to camp, well, there's no need to unclip the whole handlebar setup from your bike, or when you're packing up, you don't have to pack your gear and kind of balance your bike at the same time. Plus, the dry bag itself is super versatile. You could use it as a pillow, a stuff sack to carry things around camp, or hang it up and use it as a bar bag. Now, over the last 5 or so years, we've seen a wide range of harness style systems come to market, from Rogue Panda's minimalist designs to Revelate Designs' updated harnesses to the Miss Grape Il Coso and a bunch of others. So at this point, I'd argue that this style has become probably one of the most common setups in the whole bikepacking world, and, well, for good reason. It is lighter weight usually, so it allows a better feel of kind of the front end of the bike on, say, rough terrain. And best of all, well, it is more convenient when you do get to camp. Now, if you did miss my review of Tailfin's bar bag system that I published last year, I will link that in the description below. Much like that setup, this new bar cage borrows many familiar features. So you've got, well, the same alloy construction, CNC'd machined aluminum hardware, dual access adjustability, bar clamp compatibility with both 31.8 and 35 millimeter handlebars, and, well, the option to add accessories like GPS or light mounts. That all said, they are, well, 2 entirely different cargo solutions. Instead of an integrated bar and mount combo, this is a true kind of modular setup. The cage can be used with Tailfin's new dry bags, which they are calling packs, or pretty much any dry bag that you already own, or attach anything that you could imagine up front for that matter. Yeah, you can get creative. The cage and clamps are made from a mix of 70-75 T6 and 60-61 aluminum, and Tailfin says they specifically chose those materials for their lifetime durability. So as for the bags, they went with a roll top closure on both ends, complete with buckles, which makes it super easy to access your gear from either side. And those are constructed from Tailfin's Hapalon and ripstop nylon, all welded together. So as long as you close these sides properly, well, they are fully waterproof. And they also threw in an air purge valve, which is a really lovely touch. It really just makes it way easier to kind of get all of that air out and pack everything down tight. All right, now to help make sense of this kind of system, I think it's worth laying out the purchasing options right up front. So the cage itself is sold separately, which includes the cage, the bar clamps, and the mounting hardware. That version doesn't include any straps or bags, so you need to use your own, but it actually might be a really good option for bike packers who already have say, a dry bag and straps. That setup comes in at 232 grams. There's also an option that consists of, well, what I just mentioned, but with two 65 centimeter TPU straps, which bring the weight up to 314 grams. So if you don't already have, say, a dry bag or just want to go with that full Tailfin system, they offer it as a bundle with one of three different dry bags. So you've got three sizes: 8 liters, 11 liters, and 15 liters. The 8-liter setup comes with shorter 51 centimeter TPU straps and weighs in at 284 grams. The 11-liter system, which is the one I spent probably the most time with, comes with 65 centimeter straps and has a total weight of 335 grams. And the 15-liter version, again with the longer straps, tips the scales at 360 grams, and that's this one right here. Now, when you add the clamp, the hardware, and the cage, you're looking at a complete system weight anywhere between 516 grams and 592 grams, depending on the bag size, of course. So each of Tailfin's bags has a minimum and maximum length too, which they've done a really great job showcasing with their product graphs here. And honestly, I feel like this is something more brands should do. It makes things so easy for the customer to visualize and for us media folks to help kind of explain this stuff. So yeah, I absolutely love it. So the setup process is super intuitive. So out of the box, you've got, well, the bar clamps and the cage itself and the hardware. So you'll use two 30 millimeter T25 bolts to secure the clamps to your handlebars, and then a cylinder nut slots into the clamp. So that connects to the cage via a 4 millimeter hex button bolt and washer. A bit unusual that Tailfin went with two kind of screw head standards here, both using 4 millimeter hex and T25, but you should have both on your multi-tool or in your repair kit anyways. So the end of each bar clamp has a series of grooves spaced about 2 millimeters apart that interlock with matching grooves on the cage. So once everything is aligned and you torque those button bolts down to what they recommend is 6 Newton meters, well, the system locks into place and you're good to go. So the handlebar clamps are surprisingly low profile, just about 10 millimeters wide on each side, and they allow for over 30 millimeters of lateral adjustment so that you've got a lot of wiggle room for, say, different stem widths or the ability to utilize that bar space for, say, lights or GPS. That said, Tailfin does offer two add-ons, a GPS mount and a light mount, of course, available for purchase. All right, so to install, I started by loosely kind of assembling the whole system, then mounting it to the bars, keeping things kind of even on both sides of the stem. So from there, I basically dry fit the dry bag to, or the pack they're calling it, to check kind of the clearance. So this dual access system is actually really the standout feature here. It basically gives you vertical adjustment at the bar and rotational adjustment at the cage itself, thanks to the cylinder nut. It's actually a really slick setup and honestly not very over-engineered like some of the other Tailfin gear that I've used. So after test fitting and kind of checking the clearance between the bag and the tire, Tailfin actually recommends 30 millimeters between the bag and the front tire. I made a few small adjustments. So the ultimate goal here is to, well, keep the whole weight of the system basically as close to the frame as possible without any interference. And yes, you will have to kind of compensate because the bag will kind of move a little bit further back, especially the way the cage is oriented. So you want to make sure that it doesn't hit your head tube either. All right, so once I had the position dialed, I basically centered the clamps to the cage, tightened those down, and then, well, that was it. You might need to make a few minor tweaks here and there at the clamps on the handlebars to kind of shift things up or down, but that's the beauty of the system. You can easily shift it up or down on the bar without actually having to adjust the cage angle. So once everything's kind of fit, you then will want to thread these TPU straps through the 4 outermost slots on the cage. You've got 2 on top, 2 on bottom. These 3 center slots are actually reserved for the optional GPS or light mounts. So I did think that they were for the TPU straps, but they're not. So when it comes time to install the bag, Tailfin added what Logan is calling a third hand, which is little rubber hooks that kind of help hold the dry bag in place while you tighten the straps down. It's really a neat system. Other systems use, I'd say, Velcro here for this, but the hooks make it a little easier to adjust and center the bag. Tailfin also added what they are calling the anti-abrasion weld plate on the back of their bags that perfectly lines up with the cage. That not only adds durability where it counts, but also kind of helps guide you to center the bag correctly on the cage. So from there, you just tug on the straps and lock them down in place and you're good to go. Of course, if you want to, say, run your own dry bag and volet straps or other webbing straps with cam buckles, well, you can absolutely do that. All right, so the setup was really straightforward out of the box. I do wish the clamps were kind of cross-compatible with the Tailfin's bar bag system, but beyond that, everything felt really dialed and pretty easy to set up. So the only issue I encountered was actually I forgot to torque the cam bolts that connect basically the cage to the clamps to specification, 6 Newton meters. So one of them loosened up on me while riding, but that was due to my negligence as I was really in a rush to get out for an overnighter. So because of this, I did somewhat flatten out some of the small grooves on the clamp itself, which is definitely a disappointment and perhaps just shows that this is not a stupid proof system. That said, once I did tighten everything down to 6 Newton meters, I had no further problems. But obviously this just goes to show that, well, this is a susceptible area to wear, so make sure to torque it properly. As for bag capacity, I was especially happy with this 11-liter version. So it comes with a 165 millimeter opening, which made it really a lot easier to pack compared to the 8-liter, which only has a 135 millimeter mouth. So I was able to cram like all of my camp layers in here. So down jacket, my rain gear, my camp clothes, and even a dehydrated meal. And it still had, well, so much more capacity. So I probably could have actually made the 8-liter work, but well, this 11-liter just made packing that much easier. That said, the 8-liter bag might work a little bit better for some folks that actually have clearance issues, say between their front tire and their bars. And if you ever needed even more room, well, the 15-liter option would certainly be solid. And well, it probably would hold a load better between narrow drop bars. So that's something to keep in mind. So the straps do a solid job of actually securing the pack to the cage. I also strapped on a small foam pad, and wrapped in that was my Tyvek ground sheet. That's basically one thing that I really like about harness systems. Well, they're super versatile. So I rode some absolutely brutal washboard single track and generally kind of rough roads with this setup on a loaded and rigid rig. And while the bag stayed put, that said, the TPU straps this long do actually stretch out a bit throughout the day. So you might need to retighten them once or twice. And if that bugs you, well, I'd certainly check out webbing straps with cam buckles. Austere makes some really solid ones. Ace has them for like $7. Personally, I prefer webbing over these types of straps. Logan's a big fan of volet or TPU straps, but we all have different preferences. I just think nylon straps takes less effort to cinch down and holds tension better without consistently needing to adjust. All right, so one thing I did notice after removing the bag from the cage, there are actually a few kind of hot spots, I'd call them, where the cage was kind of rubbing against the bag, especially near the bolt heads. And if you are running a kind of thinner dry bag, I'd certainly recommend maybe tossing your Tyvek ground sheet or something similar between the cage and the bag to kind of act as a buffer. I had similar issues with an early prototype Rogue Panda Blue Ridge harness before they actually rounded off all of the aluminum brackets. Maybe Tailfin could eventually recess those button bolt heads, but honestly, if you're using their packs with the abrasion patch, you should definitely not have any issues. This thing is really burly. All right, so obviously the bar cage it's a great option for bike packing, but like most harness systems, it goes a little beyond that, right? I mean, if you're riding to yoga, well, you could toss your yoga mat in here. Oddly enough, traveling from home with your foam roller, well, that works great here too. Firewood haul, why not? It's a versatile system, and even when you're not running any other bags, it still actually looks pretty clean on the front end of your bike. Tailfin certainly prioritizes the empty look, which I do appreciate. So when I compare this to other systems I've used over the years, I'd say this is certainly the most adjustable, or at least the fastest to adjust. So the Miscrape Il Coso is super well thought out, but it does take a little bit more time to kind of reconfigure. So the Salsa Anything cradle, it's rock solid, but heavy, and it kind of pushes the load pretty far out from the bar, which can cause issues with either weight distribution or tire clearance. And of course, the Rogue Panda Blue Ridge, which has been my go-to handlebar system for the last couple of years, is still, I'd say, the most stable setup in my opinion. The long kind of carbon rods and those webbing straps give you a really tight fit that I've yet to actually replicate with the TPU straps. But of course, it doesn't have that same flexibility or adjustability that the Tailfin bar cage offers, even if, well, the Rogue Panda has worked well on most of my bikes. So yeah, in classic Tailfin fashion, they managed to build something that not only fits into an already saturated and crowded category, but honestly improves on most of those options. It's not their flashiest launch, but I think that's kind of the point here. It's simple, it's clean, and it nails what I think a handlebar harness system should be: lightweight, modular, and adaptable to just about any bike out there. So when it does come to weight, the Rogue Panda Blue Ridge harness and straps come in at 240 grams. The Tailfin bar cage with straps lands it at 314 grams. And the Miscrape Il Coso comes in at 320 grams, though that is without the accessory bar. So all three systems have the same off-road load limit of 3 kilograms or 6.6 pounds. Now for pricing, the Rogue Panda setup is the most expensive here at 200 USD. The cheapest is the Miscrape Il Coso at 140. Tailfin bar cage with the straps comes in at 160. And if you're looking for just the cage alone, no straps, that's 150 USD. Tailfin also sells the cage bundle with their bag. So it's 200 for the 8-liter, 215 for the 11-liter, and 230 with the large 15-liter bag. And if you want the full setup with the cage and all three bags, well, that'll run you $368. And the packs, or the bags, are also sold separately and can easily be used with other harness systems or even a rear rack. I could see myself using the small one on a rear rack. Those go for 65, 85, and 90 USD, depending on the size. So I would say it's competitively priced, especially with their manufacturer defect warranty and the 30% off crash replacement discount. So that about does it, but I would love to hear your thoughts on, well, Tailfin's new bar cage and maybe just harness systems in general. Do you like them? Are you using them? Why not? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you all so much for watching. And if you like what you saw in this video and want to see more like it, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And if you want to help support this YouTube channel, everything we're doing at BIKEPACKING.com, you can do so by joining the Bikepacking Collective. So the Collective offers a lot of awesome perks, including industry discounts, monthly giveaways, the all-new base camp, which is really cool. You can ask questions to experts and sell gear. And of course, you also get the twice yearly Bikepacking Journal. So to learn a little bit more about the Bikepacking Collective, or just to join, you can click on the card in the top right corner. Just follow the link in the description below. As always, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, pedal further.